What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 13, episode 6, and let's go ahead and break this episode down. We actually first start off the episode with Cynthia. She's having a conversation with Mike, and they're talking about the guest list for their wedding. So, basically, she sent out 250 invites and got back 167 responses saying that they would attend the wedding. So now she's kind of freaking out because, as we know, C-19 was happening, and she's like, I don't know if we can even have this many people. And it's like, but Cynthia, who's not going to come to a housewives wedding, regardless of pandemic or not? Who's going to turn down going to Cynthia Bailey's wedding? Like, I can understand if she was like some regular chick, who's getting married. Like, you are on a TV show. People want to get camera time, possibly. You should already know this. So, I think, to begin with, they should have cut down the list and then sent out invites. That's just how I thought that should have went. Next, they decide to have a conversation about if Dennis should come to the wedding because, as we all know, Portia and Dennis are so back and forth. We don't know if they're together or not. And I'm just like, when did Mike and Dennis become friends? But whatever. I don't really care about Dennis and Portia at all. So then we have another bit of conversation about her inviting her dad to her wedding. So I didn't even realize that her dad ended up, her dad and her brother walked her down the aisle at her first wedding to Peter. But now, since her mom had did that PSA where she basically put her dad on blast for being abusive, he kind of, backed off from Cynthia. So, she's trying to keep in mind that, like, her mom may feel some type of way, and Mike is like, well, it's your wedding, and you should feel comfortable inviting whoever that you want to invite. And I understand that, but I have to say that if my mom has been a rock for me my entire life, and my dad, he was very abusive to her, I don't think I would want to put my mom in that position, because regardless of if that happened 40, 50, how many ever years ago, I don't know how that would trigger my mom, because clearly they haven't seen each other. Her parents have not probably seen each other in a very long time. I don't know how that would trigger my mom to see that man. You know what I'm saying? So that pretty much wrapped up that scene. We're going to talk about Cynthia inviting her dad a little bit later in this review. So we next see Drew and her husband Ralph, and basically in this scene they recommit to each other with some vows, and they release some balloons in honor of Ralph's dad. Honestly, I don't really care for their scenes that much anymore. Like, I think, like, the first time we were introduced to them, and then we heard about the Tampa situation, I'm like, oh, okay, here's the drama. But now I'm like, can we integrate Drew more into the group? Because we have seen LaToya a few times be invited to things with the group, but we don't see that with Drew, and Drew has a damn peach and LaToya doesn't. How does that make any sense? So the next scene, we see Candy. She is getting her hair and makeup done, and Candy looks really pretty in this scene. She's just talking about how she has her foundation, which is Candy Cares, and she wants to do a food drive for a lot of families. I believe it was for single mother families, where she wanted to give them food and things like that, which I think is so amazing. I love to see this side of Candy, just because I feel like we always see that Candy has a business, a new restaurant, a new this. It is so good to see her giving back to the community. But then this conversation, it leads to her getting a call from Mike not Cynthia's Mike, but Eva's Mike, because he is her lawyer who's helping her with the child support situation with her ex Block. So basically, Block owes Riley $92,000. And I'm like, first of all, $92,000 is a lot of money. And that can really help Riley when it comes to paying for school, paying for her apartment, paying for, books, anything that she needs. And I love the fact that Kandi, made sure to ask Mike, well, can I have it set up so that Riley receives that money? Because at the end of the day, that's who the money belongs to. The money belongs to Riley because he never stepped up to take care of Riley. So after she gets off this phone call or whatever, I don't think it was her hairdresser or makeup artist. One of them was like, girl, you basically not going to get that money because the judge is going to be like, you're already rich. Plus, you waited until Riley was 18 years old. Baby, listen. It don't matter how old that child is. If that man owes that money, you can get some back pay, okay? There are plenty of people who have either waited until their child is 18 so that they can get their back pay, or because they've had drama with this man for so long that it's like, no, you're paying this. Please know that the government, they will side with the mom and be like, no, you need to pay this because you never did anything that you were supposed to do. The fact that Kandi said that Block has made millions. No, I still don't know what Block does. I don't know if he's a producer or I don't know what he does. But the fact that we now know that Block has made millions of dollars. From what we've heard, he has other children that he takes care of. He decided to be a great dad to. Sir, that's all fine and dandy. You can do that. You can be a great dad. And you can, take care of your kids. But guess what? You still have one out there that you need to take care of. And I think that it's great that Kandi is trying to get him for that child support because he needs to pay. Because Riley got grown on her own. Like, I remember seeing those uncomfortable scenes when they tried to form a relationship. And I'm like, you know what? That man don't even deserve to have Riley in his life. Because the way he was just so, like, not dismissive, but, like, they basically did the scene. And then she didn't really hear from him anymore. And I cannot stand hearing stories like that, where these men feel like, yeah, that was my first baby mama. I ain't worried about that, but I'm going to stick it out with, the current situation that I'm in and raise these kids great and then just leave that child alone. Are you kidding me? But one thing that I will say is that even though, at first when we first met Todd and we saw him with Riley, it was a bit shaky. I will say that I think that Todd was a great man to come into Kandi's life. And I think that he is probably a very good stepdad to Riley. I mean, we don't really get to see enough scenes of them together. But I think that Todd is a good stand-up guy to really give Riley some great advice. And I mean, I know that we see that his relationship with Kayla is a little shaky. And I'm really hoping that gets together. But I think that Riley deserves to have, some type of a male presence there, because clearly her own father, he ain't shit. Point blank, period. In the next scene, we see Portia and Cynthia meeting up, and basically this was just so Cynthia could figure out if she could invite Dennis or not to her wedding. And Portia is going on and on about how her and Dennis are, sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off. Nothing really much to that scene. Alright, so we are now at the Kandi Cares event, and I must say it was so great to see Kandi really be hands-on with what was happening at the event and getting the girls there and getting them involved. Because there's plenty of times where we've seen celebrities have events and they just, show face and then dip out after like 15 minutes. Kandi, I love that even at the end of this, she realized that she wanted to do another one. And I'm like, that's so dope. So the ladies are arriving, and of course, some type of way, we're talking about Portia and Dennis again. And Kenya didn't want to hear about Portia and Dennis. I mean, in the scene, she did look like a bit of a hater. But I didn't hate it just because I'm tired of hearing about them. Because, again, they're just so hot and cold. I don't care anymore. Also, I just want to mention what ladies were there really quickly. So, Kenya was there. Tanya, Portia, I think that was pretty much it in the beginning, because Cynthia, she ended up having to go get her marriage license with Mike that same day, and then she showed up later. And then Marlo, she actually happened to go with Candy that morning to, I think, one of like the food banks or something, I think, to go pick up produce for the bags that they were giving out. And then she ended up coming a little bit later as well. And now, I will say, it's interesting that none of the new girls were there. We did learn that Drew, it was quarantining because, remember, she went to her father-in-law's funeral. So that's understandable. But I'm like, where is LaToya? Where is Fallon? Where is, what was that other girl's name who popped up on the screen last week? Joy. I'm like, y'all keep showing us these new girls, but you're not integrating them into the group properly. Like, bravo, what are we doing? So, Candy actually let us know that Portia, she ended up donating $5,000 because she did ask, all the ladies if they can make donations, and some people donated a lot, and some people clearly were penny pinching. Portia was not one of the penny pinchers. She donated that $5,000, and when Marlo arrived, she ended up giving Candy a check for $5,000 as well. So I'm like, okay, that is so great that these women are not like, oh, I'm only going to give, $500 or $1,000. Like, come on, we know that y'all have the money. So, Kenya, she ends up coming up with this idea that the lady should go on some type of trip or something just to, relax from, or just get out of the house as well, because the pandemic is happening. So, the ladies are suggesting like all these places, and of course they decide to go to Charleston, South Carolina, and I think Portia, she brought up the fact that Fallon has a private jet. Like, she's like, oh, well, Fallon has a private jet. We could probably, see about going with her so that way everyone's safely flying. And Kenya is like, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, you're only saying that because Fallon, first of all, Fallon is not your friend. And clearly because, Fallon and Portia had made a connection. And I just feel like Kenya, she just wants to control everything. So, as we know, though, all the stuff that's the stripper gate and all that is what happens in Charleston. So, hopefully these next couple of episodes will be better than what we've already gotten in this season. So, one other thing that I wanted to bring up was the fact that Drew ended up FaceTiming with Cynthia while she was sitting with all the ladies. And she was just telling them that she's moving and how she's quarantining. And, Portia is like, oh, great, you're going to be moving right next to me, just being super friendly. Now, when Cynthia gets off the line, Kenya, she was being like, kind of not rude, but like she said something that was shady, and I think Portia caught it. And I'm like, why are you being so shady to Drew? That woman has literally done nothing to Kenya the same way she did nothing to LaToya, yet they keep coming for her. I mean, even on social media, we see that, now Drew has some things to say back about Kenya. So hopefully in the future of this season, we do see them have a confrontation, because I just want to see how that is going to pan out. All right, you guys. So the last scene is one from Cynthia, and we see her and Noelle. They're in the car, and they're driving to Cynthia's mom's house. So when they get to her mom's house, Mal is already there. She done ate up all the food. And Cynthia comes out and says, like, hey, Mom, I really want to invite our dad to the wedding. And her mom is like, okay, well, I'm just going to wear my mask over my eyes. Which we already read that as she was not feeling it. So Cynthia is basically saying that, I kind of have my own relationship with Dad, even though she has not talked to that man in over 3 years. Just want to put that out there. And she knows that he's getting older, and she just wants him to come to the wedding. Honestly, within this entire situation, and I know people are going to, in their reviews and in the comments, they're going to talk about how, oh, well, her mom shouldn't put this burden on Cynthia and all this stuff. But let's go ahead and break this down. Cynthia has been with her mother her entire life, okay? If I can recall, didn't their father leave them when she was like 3 or 4 years old? I could have swore that like her dad was not fully in the picture. So I think he kind of like came back around once Cynthia kind of blew up as a model. So your dad was not there most of your life. When it came down to even knowing Noelle has only met that man one time. One time, you guys. And Noelle is grown. Noelle is like 20-something years old at this point. Or at least I know for sure she's at least 20. Then when it comes to that whole PSA thing. Now, I don't know what the mom was talking about, how she didn't know that it was a PSA. I think that she was more so hurt by the backlash that she got from the people who probably knew her that still lived in Alabama. Because the person that they know is Mr. Bailey. Mr. Bailey seems like a stand-up guy. The man that they know is not the man that she knew. You understand what I'm saying? So, but all that aside, I need for people to stop going back to these childish wishes that, oh my gosh, I want my dad to be there because, he's still my dad. That man ain't been your daddy in I don't know how long. He hasn't been your dad since you were, 3, 4 years old? And maybe a few times that he came back around? Like, I'm sorry. I get sick and tired of seeing people invite their parents to their wedding. He has never even met Mike. What's the point of that? It's not like he's like bonding with your family. It's not like you go back to Alabama to see him. You said you haven't talked to him in 3 years because your mom did a PSA saying that he used to beat my ass. Like, I'm sorry. When it comes to certain things, we have got to stop placing our childhood wishes on reality. Because like you wish that your dad was so great that he would be excited about you getting married. You wish that your dad would want to be involved. That man, he wasn't even involved in your life. And one thing I will say is that as much as people, they want to say, well, that's very toxic of her mom to put her feelings first. I'm sorry. If I found out that my dad used to beat my mom's ass to where one time she had to grab a knife to try to protect herself, you right, I'm not inviting that man. I'm not about to put no more trauma on my mother. Regardless, I'm not putting any more trauma on my mother. The one who was actually there when his ass dipped out. There has been too many times, at least on reality TV shows, where the parent who was there, that's who we shit on. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. I don't understand that. There is no way that I'm going to shit on my mom, but then try to build up this great fake relationship with my dad when he dipped out a long time ago and he only came back when I was popping. I'm sorry, but that shit don't work. That shit don't work with me. It just don't. So I was all here for Noelle being the smartest one in the room. Like, you already know that your mom has been there the entire time. I've only met the man one time in my entire life. He don't even talk to Cynthia. He ain't talked to her in like 3 years. So, what relationship is you talking about? Regardless, like, and I'm not trying to sound I'm not trying to, like, wish anything bad on him, but I'm saying, like, anything can happen to that man at any given point. Him showing up to your wedding is going to prove what? That you have a dad? That you can pretend like your dad really cares about you? Because that is the only thing that's happening here, is that if your dad shows up to that wedding, you're going to be so happy that your dad finally showed up for you, even though, honestly, he just showed up to show up, because he clearly don't give a damn about you. And that is that on that. That wraps up my review. Let me know what you guys think. I'm pretty sure there are going to be people who disagree with my opinion on the Cynthia situation, and that is okay. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.